You know, right. The podcast that uncovers the origin stories of some of the biggest names in media, entertainment, sports, and entrepreneurship. Nick Durst here, along with Joe Calabrese. And Joe, we are very excited for our guest today. I'm also a little jealous. If you're watching the video, you see him right now. He's got a beautiful scenery where he is, nice and warm in Sherman, California. But the two of you, Joe, you and our guest, a little color coordination on the t-shirt. So I like that. You're in sync already. But why don't you tell everybody officially who we have with us here today?
You always steal what I'm about to say. I just think we have strong telepathy between us at this point. It's really great. So you mentioned everything that we usually have here on the podcast. We do a lot of reality TV, and you and I were huge Big Brother fans. So we're becoming a Big Brother podcast now, which is incredible. But we have another former Big Brother contestant on with us. He was on Big Brother 23, and he was also on the challenge too. So I know you appreciate that. Very, very happy to have him on. Again, part of the Big Brother family, so we get another guest to our extensive list. Kyland Young. Kyland, welcome to the show. As Nick said, it looks unbelievable where you are. We're jealous. It's crappy here in New York now, but how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm thankful to have a little, a sunny day today. And we obviously get a lot of them, but we just finished a week of we had our own little bad weather with a lot of wind and some rain. I was gonna say hurricane, but I know that means something much different in a lot of other places. It just felt like it here. We're very spoiled.
Oh yeah, certainly. So Kyle, I gotta ask you.
Glad to be here.
Very glad to have you here. So let me take you back like 8 or 9 years ago. Now, when Young Forever comes out by Jay-Z, was that your jam? Were you like, this is my song, I'm Kyland Young?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it really did feel like it. I'm not going to lie. I always think about my grandfather on my dad's side. He said that when he proposed to my grandma, he said, I can't promise you much, but I promise you you'll be young forever. And I was like, damn, what a stud. What a line.
That's a great line.
Yeah, I'm stealing that for sure. But but yeah, what a time. That was, still on top of the world.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. That's definitely your anthem right there, or at least it was at that point. Another question I have for you is, what is your favorite fruit from edible arrangements?
Ooh. Well, whatever. Are you asking for a specific reason?
Well, you had a past career there, right?
I did. That's why I love the great research. So edible arrangements. Trying to think what would be the best fruit. I'm pineapple. Pineapple would say crisp, and you could chocolate dip half the pineapple daisies with a little strawberry core, and they look good, taste good.
Yeah, definitely.
The honeydew.
The chocolate covered is the way to go for sure, whatever the fruit may be.
A little sweetness always helps. Yeah, extra sweetness. When people eat desserts, or they like just fruit alone as desserts, I'm like, damn, I don't want to live in that world.
I don't know. It's a good question. On their own, I don't think so. I think they need to be there. There needs to be like an unhealthy sweet attached to it in order to be considered a true dessert, right?
I agree 100%. I've just seen people do that, and I'm like, wait, did you grow up without colors too? Like what is this devastating place? But yeah, it was a fun time.
We'll get to some more fun times here in a minute. So you received a bachelor's degree in communications from Pepperdine, and I've been out in California before, and I've driven up and down the coast, and I've been to a bunch of different places. That place has probably the most spectacular view that I've seen ever, and so you got to go to school there. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so Pepperdine was it was a culture shock for me, really, because I grew up in the high desert. So it's a desert in between LA and Vegas, pretty barren wasteland, meth capital of the country in the 90s. And I was growing up, like nothing nice aesthetically or otherwise is there. Excuse me. But it's a cheap place if you have a family. So my family's moved out there. So it was to go. I didn't even know I liked California until I went to Pepperdine. And then because once I went to Pepperdine, I was like, oh wait, this place is gorgeous. Like there is a lot more to this place than just Joshua trees. And I'm not saying Joshua Tree. Joshua Tree is kind of a dope little vacation spot. Joshua Trees, though, alone in the high desert, not as cool. So yeah, going to Pepperdine, and then also just a totally different, like, interesting demographic. Just extra. I think we had, I believe there's some stat, like we had the most luxury cars per capita per student of any campus. So I think I went there without any car, and eventually had a '93 Corolla with a hole in the hood. So it was such a cultural shock in every way to be there. But met some really great people, and just really got to fall in love with the state, also with the beach and just California.
And what'd you do on campus, activity wise, and internships?
Internships. I was always working the whole time. So like I worked on campus in the housing department. I worked in the which is like really just labor. Like we would just paint stuff and move. We replaced all. It happened to be my summer was the first time they decided in like a decade to replace every single mattress on campus. So that was fun, removing every mattress from every bed on campus and bringing in a new mattress in lots of buildings with no elevators. And then I was I worked at like an elementary school at like the summer camp. I worked at and I interned at some marketing agencies and really just fell in love with that. It just seemed to be something that matched my interests and skill sets, and started me down that career path.
So coming out of college, you end up working for Shady Acres Entertainment. So tell us about your time there and your first taste of school professional
So I was
clothing.
actually I started during school. I started during my senior year, kind of unofficially, and then eventually officially working for Tom Shadyac. He is a filmmaker. He wrote and directed a lot of big films, like wrote and or directed or both. And or Bruce Almighty,
Wow.
Nutty Professor, Liar Liar, Ace Ventura. So just and like I grew up like these films were staples of our household. So it was such a weird coincidence to encounter him. And I didn't even know any of that when I encountered him at the time. And he, so I was saying this, I was auditing like his class. He had a class that was like about life, really. It was called something like filmmaking, but it really wasn't. He would just show some film or documentary or bring a speaker, and then we just talk about life. Like it was just he's just a very philosophical, positive guy who went through his own, like, because he had this high ascension in Hollywood, and then he just decided that wasn't the path they wanted to go on. Not in terms of not making films and everything. He still had a passion for that, but just the accumulation for him, he felt of wealth in the monetary, materialistic sense wasn't for him. So he started giving away most of his money, like 95% of his money, and just to nonprofits and just being philanthropists, and just while still like he was biking to work like 40 miles each way. Like he was really about it, and is still. And right now he's in Memphis, and he built a nonprofit out there. It's like the only nonprofit climbing gym in the world. Just he's a mentor of mine and one of my favorite people in the world. So I can go off on him for a while. But at Pepperdine, just fell in love with his class and with his mentorship. And so when he said he was launching a book, I was like, more people need to see this. So social media, this is what, 2012 going into 2013. Obviously, popular, but not where it is today. And so I was just like, I think we can use this to kind of promote the book, and through some connections that we made there, and then some speaking engagements I was able to organize and stuff. And obviously he had plenty of his own connections as well. We were able to get him New York Times bestseller book. And so I was like, wow, like this creative marketing, like using social media, just seems really, and just ideating around non-conventional, like not ad buys, for marketing something just seemed really interesting to me, and so that was a cool experience for sure.
So from there, you kind of put your entrepreneurial hat on, you co-find SlashMyFees, then you do some more moving around in the world of business, like all of us really do. Work for BeCore Experiential Marketing Agency, Control Agency, and Scholly. So tell us about your time there, that whole period in your life.
Oh yeah, for sure, all over the place. I mean, it was like I had this internship at when I graduated at I'm blanking now. Maybe you see it there. The agency before SlashMyFees, it was I'm blanking on the name. It was a small agency, boutique agency that had like they were doing a lot of Facebook marketing, and I was supposed to be hired there, and then literally like right as I graduated, they had lost like a deal that they just couldn't hire on a new person. And so I was like, oh no, like I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do, because that's where I was putting my plans, because that's what the conversation we were having, and that was the plan for them, and they were super apologetic about it and wonderful in terms of exposing me to the things I had to learn when I was there. But so then I ended up hitting up just logistically, I think it's worth sharing. Then my best friend was in Newport, and he was doing his working towards his PhD, I think still in his master's at the time, for UC Irvine. And he was just like, hey, like I have a place by the beach here that like it's a little studio, but I can barely afford to be here because of his school stipend stuff. And he's like, so if you just want to share this space with me while you figure out what you're doing. And I was like, yeah. So he let me come over and stay at his place, and we ended up staying there for like 2 years. And it's so funny because like in hindsight, I'm like, how did that ever work? Like that we shared this tiny space, but we just got closer. Like I don't think we ever fought. He's my best friend this day, and like he's the one that introduced me to Big Brother as a show. And so it was so all that time, the 2 years I was commuting to LA, because right soon after I moved there, I ended up getting like a month or two later, I ended up getting a job at an agency called BeCore Experiential Marketing Agency, and it was another really cool experience because it was literally stunts, events and social plans for Red Bull, Xbox, Beats by Dre, Columbia Sportswear, just really fun brands. And they had just finished, like as I was there, they were wrapping up the biggest stunt of all time at the moment. When I started there, it was Felix Baumgartner skydiving from outer space with Red Bull. Took up a capsule on like a big balloon, and a weather balloon carried up the capsule, I think, or something like that, and jumped from space. The first human to break the sound barrier without being in a vehicle. It was just insane. And so just doing really cool stuff like that. And started out as like an assistant to one of the CMO there, one of the co-founders or CMO. I don't know if he helped found it, but part owner. And then just started working my way up there, like to be a part of the team that was like working on the strategies, on business development, on partnerships, on just overall strategy for any of the things we were doing. And while I was there, I got tapped by a Pepperdine alum friend who asked me for help with some marketing stuff. And that company fizzled and turned into him wanting to start a new company, SlashMyFees, that was helping small business owners cut their costs. And that was an interesting experience, like just being a co-founder and like building that. And like, so I ended up kind of speaking at all of the WeWorks, like in California, to all of their, because I spoke at one and they liked me and they had me go to the other ones, and it was just talking to business owners about how to cut their costs. And so they really liked that aspect of it. And but for a variety of reasons, it just made sense on timing and internal stuff for us to exit that and just to end up selling the assets at a certain time. And so it was just a really cool experience to like build something, make some money, and get, I don't know, it just put me out there and around a lot of business owners, which has always really stuck with me as far as like the entrepreneurial side. And yeah, and then so that was while I was at BeCore. And then soon after that, because we sold that, and then BeCore, I was doing really well. And then ended up taking some time because I was just working nonstop
Yeah.
since I was like 12, always between like, and so took a little bit of a break and then started doing consulting for a while. And then somebody picked me up into Ctrl, which was another social media agency that a friend of mine had started. And then I got picked up into Blavy, which is a media company. And Blavy is a media company. We were doing is the largest online Black media company, and we would talk to brands about their marketing plans to help hire and talk to them about diversity and inclusion and all those things. And so that was an interesting experience. It was my first time like working at a company where it was a majority like Black staff, which was its own. I've always been very intentional about like educate since my adult life, I should say, because in school you don't really get that education on a thorough like Black history. And so kind of since college, I had some professors that started pointing me in those resources and in direction. So it was just really cool to be a part of a company that was reaching the culture, that was reaching and then helping to build more diversity and equity and inclusion in these Fortune 100 companies through my time at Blavy. So so I mean that was the and then from Blavy I picked up into Scholly, which was it is a tech company that helps kids find scholarships for college. And so we'd work with different brands and celebrities and partners to help build
They were on
scholarships.
Shark Tank, right?
He was, yes. Chris Gray, the founder, young kid that started it, and because he won like over $1 million in scholarships on his own. Everybody's asking him how, so he decided to build this app. And soon after he built it, he got the chance to be in Shark Tank, and he got picked up by a couple of the sharks, and it was one of the most heated episodes ever in the history of the show. Like the heated arguments ever. Like if you look up top heated arguments, his is usually one of the
So
first.
a funny story about that is, so I used to work for Damon. So I
No
did a whole
way.
video with him about the big fight, and we posted it to his YouTube channel. But good TV, that's for sure.
Exactly, good TV, a good deal, and now it's probably it has to be one of the top. I'm considering where they're at right now. One of the top like companies to success stories of people that got deals and actually were able to follow through and build in something. Because at the time they didn't even know how they were going to make money, and that was everybody's concern.
Right.
But they found a lot of ways, and so it was really cool to learn directly from him. I worked directly under him, managing like partnerships, and it was just really. It was cool to be a part of such a social impact company, because like I've always measured my personal success by like impact I'm able to have, and being able to work in a company that is so like profitable while helping the students, helping the businesses, helping like I was like, oh, you can really have all of these different wins for different organizations at the same time, and just really. And then even when I got out of Big Brother, like when I first was going into Big Brother, they gave me like a leave of absence, and afterwards we were talking, and he's like, was asking like, what do I want to do? And I was like, I think I kind of want to see, like, I don't think I want to go back to work in like corporate. I kind of want to see what else I can do on my own. Kind of, I got a little bit of a platform, I got some exposure, and I have some a lot of people I've connected with from this world that are doing things, and I want to see maybe what I could do to see if I could spread my own impact in my own way. And he's like, I think you should. Like, he was so supportive, and I'm just thankful for him for that. And it was it was so that's what's been happening since then.
So you mentioned before you were doing speaking at the WeWorks, and watching you from afar on television shows and seeing social platforms. I feel like you are a very motivational person. You try to have people rise up, get the best. So have you been approached since Big Brother to do any sort of motivational type of speaking events? And is public speaking something you like to do?
Yes. I would, going backwards, or actually yes to all. So I ended up it's so funny because like this, I was just talking to somebody yesterday about my this doctor, actually, Dr. Sasha, who is she has a, I'm playing out her name on her channels, but I'm just looking her up now because it is somebody that everyone is should check out. Oh, there we go. Dr. Sasha Hamadani, the psych doctor, MD, on Instagram. She specializes in people with neurodivergence, especially ADHD. I got diagnosed with ADHD in college, and then after Big Brother, I actually got a diagnosis for autism, and it definitely filled in a gap of understanding myself, getting that diagnosis. Because I was talking, I was like, oh yeah, when I was a child, I was like nonverbal. So I was like 5. Like, and we just didn't think we were just like, he just doesn't talk. I'm like, it's fine, but he understands stuff. And my sister was talking for me. And then when I turned 5, like we were like, hey, let's have him go to speech therapy. And because I was forced to talk and had a lot of trouble with words since I didn't talk before that. And the speech therapy helped close that gap. And so, I think that nobody would have thought that I would enjoy speaking, and somewhere along the lines, like I just realized I picked up a liking to communication and to understanding how to communicate in a lot of things. Probably just because a lot of things that people learn through osmosis, I was like learning intentionally and usually through trial and error. And as far as like interacting with people. And so after I mean, we worked stuff at that background, and then after the show, I ended up connecting with a guy who has an agency, a speaking agency, and so he just told me next spring I'll probably do a couple of like corporate speaking stuff. And now that I really didn't start exploring too much of my own content on social media until these last couple of months, and excuse me. And I think that I definitely want to take more opportunities to like kind of do at least small, like, I don't want to just say like motivational, but also just conversations around positivity, around neurodivergence, around gratitude, around things that like I just are important to me, and then maybe there's an opportunity for that to lead into opportunities I could speak about approaching those things from a neurodivergent mind, from someone with a late diagnosis, from someone who has had these very weird experiences that that I've had as especially recently as a result of these shows.
For sure. That sounds awesome. So you mentioned your roommate, this tiny studio apartment, he turned you on Big Brother. So what was the first season you guys started watching? And then when did you decide that you wanted to audition? And what was your whole process like for the audition process?
Oh my gosh. So, all right, so many different things. He had actually been watching, my friend Brett, he had been watching with his family for like years, like decade probably. And I'd known him since I was 19 or something, I think, or 18. No, I met when I was like 17. And so he's like 2 years older than me. And so we met at the community college across the street from my high school because I was taking classes there. And he probably tried to get me to watch from the first couple of years that I knew him. And even when I lived with him, I refused. I was like, I don't watch reality TV. I'm good, man. I'm not gonna watch it. I love movies. I love TV. I just was like, no, I'm not. I'll watch some superhero shows on CW, but
oh, those are the best. Give me your best CW.
Yeah,
give me your best CW superhero shows real quick, and I'm gonna continue the Big
Smallville.
Brother.
It's all. I'm Smallville.
Right.
It's I mean, I love
Smallville,
I love the new wave,
The Flash.
all of them.
Good
of
stuff.
Course. Yes. But Smallville is just iconic for me. I don't know. It just is. But yeah,
Tom
I mean, the Flash
Welling was incredible.
Yeah. Tom, it was that whole and Michael Rosenbaum. He's still the best Lex I think that they've ever had. Like
they should have had Tom Welling be Superman on movies.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I've heard that I missed the crossover. I'm so behind on shows. I missed
Tom
the
Welling's in the
crossover when he came
crossover,
back.
Kyland. You got to watch.
I know,
You gotta
I
see.
know. I've seen like clips, and I'm like, damn, I need to watch all of the shows. Is a problem.
Right.
It's like that TV universe. And I'm like, oh, I need the Arrowverse. I need to like catch up on all of them. I'm about a season or two behind on most of them. Maybe like, yeah. So I know I'm gonna put in the work. I'm gonna catch up. Someday. There's too much content, but the but yeah, so he tried to get me to watch for years, and I was like, no, I'm good. And then finally, after 8 years probably of being friends, I was like, you know what? I'll check out this show. I'll watch the season with you. You've asked me a lot. I've had you watch a lot of movies. I'll watch the show. I was like, what day does it come on? He's like, 3 times a week. I was like, 3 times a week? Are you kidding me? And then he's just like, I was like, fine. So we watched the first episode of season 20, and that's when it started. And I was like, immediately hooked. I don't know why. I was just like, wait a second. This is a game? And I was just like, what are they doing? And I was like, it just all clicked very quickly. Like, as I was watching it, it just all clicked. And I was like, this is the greatest, like episode 1, I was like, I need to do this. This is the sport. This is the best sport the best game I've ever seen. Everything in my life has led me to this show. I need to do this. And I was just like, I feel like I've been preparing for this game my whole life. And he was just like, I told you. And I was like, I know, you're right. And then so before season 20 finale, I'd probably consumed about like 4 or 5 different other seasons by that time. Like I was like, can I watch more? Like I need more. And then he's just like, there's live feeds. I was like, live feeds. I was like, but that was too slow. So I was like, I need the episodes. So yeah, so I was like bouncing between the show and the feeds and the past seasons, because I was like, well, let me go backwards. I started at 19, and I was like, wait, who's this guy, Paul? I was like, I need to find out where he came from. And I start 18, and I was like, wait a second, there's 4 other people from other seasons. So then I just like started probably at like 10, and then later on ended up going back a little bit further to like 6 and 7 and stuff. But yeah, that was the intro into Big Brother, into watching it, and I'm very glad that he did, because I started. I don't know. I remember I was talking to Tiffany, and she said like, "Oh, you never watched it as like a fan." And I was like, "I guess not." Like, I immediately watched it as like studying it. I was like, "This is what I want to do." Like, so I have notes like from that year. That's why I started taking notes on like the game and on player. I was like, "Nah, I need to understand this."
So what was the audition process like for Big Brother?
Oh man. So the audition process. Oh yeah, I actually I'm trying to think what all happened. The first year, because it would have been for 21, is before the pandemic or anything started. So I'd sent in a video, got a call, did like a Skype, and then like an in-person, and then they disappeared, and then there was nothing. And then so I was like, all right, well, I'm out of this one. And then the next year, because they had told me to apply again, like, hey, like, it's just not a fit this year, but like apply again. And then the next year I applied, but that ended up being for 22, so I never got a call back because I was all stars. And then the last year, I ended up getting the what is that called? Oh, actually, you know what? I totally skipped the very first time I applied. So I think this. Maybe it made a difference. Who knows? But the very first time I applied, I'll give you guys this little exclusive. I actually, I sent in my tape, because that was the only application was write down your name, your email, your age, and send in a tape. And so that's all I did. And then I started recruiting friends to send in their own tapes. And so I would go to like my friend Sarah, and I'd be like, Sarah, like, I need to make tape. Here's what I need you to do. And so Sarah would be like, hey, my name's Sarah. I do this, and I want to be in Big Brother. But really, who you should call? You should have Kyland Young, because he would be great for the show. And then one time I like had like a movie night party, and then before that I like brought pizza for everybody, and I was like, all right, everybody needs to do one. And I had like 15 people that day. So I had probably like 30, 40 people total. And and a couple of them like popped up in the end of it. And so when they had called me, they were like, hey, so this guy's like, hey, is this Kyland? He's like, yeah. He's like, I am so tired of seeing all these videos. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he's like, you're not allowed to do that. Like your audition is supposed to be like I was calling just to let you know that that's not allowed. And then over the conversation, we ended up like getting along. But he's just like, yeah, he's just like, that usually just gets somebody immediately, rejected. So nobody should do that, because they said like that's actually against the policy when you submit your application, is that you can't tell people that you're submitting your application. And they don't like that. But it just worked out that, it didn't work out one time because I didn't get on, but at least it started the conversation and kept me passionate about applying. And then 2 times later, ended up, getting the call from the new casting director, Jesse, and he was awesome. And it's crazy because people always ask like what tips for like what you should do, and it really is that concept, as cliche it is, of just like be yourself, because that's what they want to see. And it doesn't matter like how flashy it is, because all they're gonna like, you have to think about the diary room, you have to think about the mundaneness of the show, and they just want to see they just want to see you and fit you in like a puzzle piece into whatever it is, the people that they're going to have. And but the main tip, besides like BU, like on a practical sense, is literally go to Jesse's site. Like on his site, he has a video where he explains like, here's how you should do your video. Like make sure that you're sitting like this, and make sure that you are telling stories about like he gives like a best practices, and those best practices are the exact things he would echo during our calls, like during the audition process, when he'd be like, hey, like remember when I said this, like make sure you do that a little bit more or less or whatever. So because they want to bring people that they want to have a good show. So like if you really want to be there, they want to help you be there.
So what was your reaction to being casted? And there's a very small window here when you find out that you're going to be on the show, and then you go into the Big Brother house. That period is very hectic for a lot of people. So were you scrambling to throw together stuff to bring into the house? Did you do any shopping quick? And what was like that initial reaction, and sharing that with everybody in your life?
Oh, wow. I mean, it's like, I have to answer cautiously because they have a lot of rules about how much of that ending process, as you get into like the finals of the auditions, that you're allowed to share. But for me, I'd say it was probably a little bit less crazy because I was proactive about like packing, and because they give you like an idea of like, hey, if you're selected, here's the type of stuff you should do. And so I was kind of very proactive about that, and proactive in terms of trying to like get my life in order and stuff. And then I had the benefit of the fact that I lived in LA, so I didn't have to fly somewhere like a lot of people. Right. So it was it was just more excitement than anything. It's anxiousness because it's like, oh man, am I gonna get it? I don't know. And you just don't. And then you'll read like a headline that's just like the cast has already been picked up, and you're like, no, I'm not. I'm at home. And then it's like, oh no, that's not true. It's just some spoiler fake account that doesn't know what they're talking about. So yeah, it's wild time.
Well, if you stay ready, you never have to get ready, and you obviously
exactly
stay ready, ready to go, and it showed on the show for sure. So for you, give me your favorite part of being on the show and your least favorite part about being on the show.
Favorite part's hard. I'm so much of it I love. Like, I mean, I think the relationships you build, the bonds, like those are all real. And the games, I love the competitions. Those are all fun. It was like a dream, even like the donkey costume and the Jackass of Clubs was like, the punishments are punishments. Like when you're experiencing them, they seem so like they wouldn't trivial, like it wouldn't really matter. But when you're doing it for a week and like you're waking people up in the middle of the night to hand them sandwiches and
have you made a BLT
ostracizing
since?
yourself? No, definitely not. But it's like it is, you know, be careful what you wish for, because I was like, my dream, I was like, oh gosh, I hope I get to wear a costume so bad, and then, like, I did, and I was like, you know what, and I think that being first on the block gave me a perspective that really allowed me to appreciate the I think I got to enjoy and appreciate being there probably more than anyone, because that very first being the very first face up on the memory wall as a nomination, or as a nomination, because my key turned first. I was like, all right, the after that, it was always like, hey, if I'm sweeping the floors, I was sweeping the floors, and I was like, there's gonna be a time when I'm gonna sweep a floor and I'm not gonna be in the Big Brother house, the Big Brother house. Excuse me. Like, this is a dream for me to be here and sweep the floors here, or like sit in the hammock, or sit in the bathroom or a have not room or whatever. And I was like, I'm really grateful that I had that experience, as terrifying as it was, because it allowed me to just really feel that gratitude for the rest of the season, and also get the fear out of the way. Because that very first time on the block, when I was waiting because I was like, if Derek doesn't use the veto, that means I'm going home. So I remember sitting there, and I've been, unfortunately, in like actual life or death situations, and sitting in that chair waiting for him to use the veto or not felt very similar, to like exactly like that. It feels like life or death. And it's a weird part of the game, but I think it's just because of that isolation, because you're cut off from the world entirely. Like, it's no phones, no TV, no internet, but also no books, no pen and paper, no music, no sunlight 5 days a week. That backyard will really only get access to it like 2 days a week, because they're building competitions out there usually. So, and you don't, in other shows, you get to see production staff. In ours, you don't, because they're all behind either two-way mirrors or behind the cameras. They're just moving camera arms. So that whole place becomes your world. So when you're voting someone out, so I guess the least favorite part would really just be voting someone out, because all of our friendships were real. And we also had a weird part of our season was that we didn't have like, obviously we had the cookout, but we didn't have like factions. Like, there wasn't like two sides of the house.
Right.
There wasn't everyone was actually close and socializing with everyone all the time. So voting someone out was like, you're like, oh, let me just help murder my friend who's becoming like family, and that was it was always hard.
So you may have kind of touched this, but not as far as like your least favorite part of the game, but was there something physically about the house that you didn't really like, or something that bothered you? Most people we've asked this question, they say the lights were really just too bright, or people were snoring, or the lack of bathrooms. Anything like that bother you at all?
So I'm very fortunate. It's funny because like even for like the so the lights and stuff didn't bother me, or snoring or whatever, because I don't have sensory stuff around auditory and light and sound. Like, doesn't really phase me. But I have sensory stuff on like smells and tastes, and so the food, they would clean all of our food because of COVID, and
Right.
so I ended up. That's why they ended up when I was smelling the tortillas, it's because we would eat like a food, and then we'd end up having I'd like make a burrito or tacos or whatever, or sandwiches, and I'd like take a bite, and I'd be like, oh, this tastes like soap, and then I was like, wait a second, I think it's coming from the tortillas. So then I started smelling the tortillas, because I was like, oh, I don't want to eat the soap ones. And then they gave us so many. I always like to just make clear, I'm like, the ones I was smelling and putting back in the bag, that's because I was like, you guys don't care, because maybe they couldn't taste it. Maybe I was just extra sensitive to it. But I was like, you guys are eating soap. I'm not going to eat it. So I'm going to have my own bag of soap-free tortillas here. And not realizing that all of those, at my testing phase, would be compiled into a nice little compilation video. So that was, so yeah, eating the soapy food until I realized where it was coming from. I was like, why is there soap in our food? And then once I realized where it's coming from and was able to stop that, that was better.
So what was the worst competition or your least favorite competition to compete in? And I mean, anybody who's on the show, you're a fan of the show, or you become a fan of the show, you get competitive, right? So you're into it. Was there any competition that you enjoyed being in, or was your favorite?
Um, my favorite is BB Comics. I love superheroes, so we get to pretend to be a superhero and have my own comic. That was cool. And it's just an iconic, like, even though it's only been around like 5-6 years, like it's just an iconic like game. And so I was like, all right, that's cool. And then that was also my first time getting to have like well, I guess both ones I had a veto, but that first one was like the bonus veto or the second HOH. But the third HOH was like, uh, we coined this phrase, and I don't think it stuck, but I think it should stick. So if anybody, Big Brother, is watching this, start sharing this. And that was the golden HOH, which is when you have the HOH and you win the veto, instead of a clean sweep, because I think it just makes more sense, because we like it better. So because Christian had the first golden HOH for our season in week 4, and that's when we came up with it. And so that was pretty cool. That was definitely the favorite. And then I don't know about least favorite. I mean, least favorite probably is the final 4 veto, because I just got in my head and made myself lose like first in something that I was good at. Like I don't even think I've watched that episode. I think that, but I saw it when it was edited. But like the first round, I was fast. I was like real fast, and I was like, this is like Big D and X finished a good amount of time after me on the balance beam thing, and I was like, I got this, no problem. And then I just got competitive, and I was like, let me like, I was like, it's not enough to win. I have to like really make a statement and just demoralize them with this win. And so then I was like, let me just go really fast. And then I started going faster, and I was never falling. I just kept knocking the thing out because I was going too fast. And I got in my head about it. And so then I just made myself lose that. And I think that I was just frustrated with myself for making myself approach that way and lose the game.
So let's talk redemption. They come back to you and they ask you back for an all-star season. Are you in?
Oh, easy. Yeah. I just love the game. Like it's traumatizing in a lot of ways, but the game's just too cool. Like I always say, like the challenge is more fun. The challenge is it's just pure fun. But Big Brother is just a cooler game. Like not even cooler, because challenge is pretty cool, but the Big Brother is just a better game, I think. I just love the nuance of it, and the length of time, and the psychological side, emotional side, all of it. Yeah, it's just, I think it's just is my favorite game.
Fair enough. So my question is then, the show ends, finale night, you get your phone back. One, how many missed calls, texts, notifications did you have? And number two, how much more did your social media following grow from when you went into the house to when you came out?
Oh wow. So missed calls, a lot of them didn't come through. I feel like I had people that said they sent me like voice notes and text messages and voicemails that didn't come through. So I was pretty sad about that, because some people, like one of my friends, like, yeah, it's sending you like voice note like every week or something like that. And I was like, oh man, I didn't get them. Because my phone, for whatever reason, I did. Like some stuff came through, but like just from people I've talked to, 5% of what I should have gotten came through. Social media was pretty surreal. Like I think I came out and there was like, I don't know, 30 something thousand followers, which was, and it's so overnight for us, because we go in and then we don't get our phone that whole time. So even though it's 3 months for the real world, it's one night for us, that from the time we have our phone to the time we have it again. Hyperbaric chamber, like it was just like crazy. Yeah, and that was interesting for sure, and overwhelming, and it was pretty wild.
There you go. So not too much after the show ends, you get the call, hey, we're doing the challenge for CBS. Are you in? You say you're in. Now, what was unique about this is that it seemed, and you mentioned on the show, you had a few months to prepare for this, whereas the regular challenge, it's kind of like, hey, you want to do the show? Okay, you're going next week. So what did you do to prepare to go in? You seem to be a student of the game. Did you go back and watch this show? And you got in better shape? Did you watch the show? Did you ever watch the show beforehand, before being approached to be on it? And what was that whole process like for you getting ready to go on the show?
Yeah, so I'd never watched I'd never heard of the challenge until I was in the Big Brother house. They started talking about it one day and I was like, wait, what is this? And I was like, this sounds amazing. Like I love competitions and I love like stunts and stuff like that. So when they told me about that, I was just like, yeah, I wanna find out what this is. And so pretty quickly, I think for sure after I got the call, maybe even before I'd started watching, I was like, you know what? So I called people. I was like, hey, this sounds cool. What is this? And they're like, hey, honestly, you should start watching at like season 30 because the game's just evolved so much over the years that if you want a view of like the more modern game, like start there just to get some backstory. And then you can, and then even then you'll notice it evolve, which you can tell from 30 to 35, like it evolves drastically. And then 36, 37, whole new show. Like 36, 37, 38 is like a whole new vibe. So that, but yeah, so I immediately started watching back then. And I just started like training specific to the things. Like I didn't just want to go running or I didn't just want to go lift weights. Like I wanted to find out, okay, what's the functional fitness movements that can make me versatile? Because it's a game where I knew I was like, like I'm not going to be the strongest guy there, the biggest guy there, the fastest person, like or the smartest, but like, can I be well rounded? Because that seems to be the people who tend to do well. And when I was watching, I was like, because I'm really pretty good at like figuring stuff out as far as like figuring out strategy, figuring out like how to approach a challenge. And that was what I wanted to like embody, you have the goats like the CT and Johnny, and for me, like I was looking at Jordan because I just loved his ability to win most things, like so many different sort of challenges and like that confidence. I was like, okay, how do I do that? But like me, like as in kind of nice to people, like not he's a nice person in real life, but in the show he's not known for being nice when he's competing. So I was like, all right, well, I couldn't be mean like that, but can I at least compete like that and prepare like that? And so I just wanted to be well versed, like so that way I knew that whatever challenges we faced would be on. So that was the mentality in preparation.
Was it a difficult decision for you to go along with Alyssa and take the shot at Xavier?
Yeah, it was really hard. I think that's the second part of the show like that, is that you don't get to see like how much goes into these decisions because it's a fast-paced show. It's not 3 episodes a week. It's not live feeds. It's just very much like shock and awe for the edit. And so with things like they showed like, I think they show Xavier fall during the trivia match, and they show like me like conniving with conspiring with Derek and Melissa or something, and I was like, I wasn't even there at the time. Like I was literally preparing for my turn, getting harnessed up in another room while they went. So like, I think that so much of that is lost in the show. So I appreciate you asking, because yeah, it was literally like I had to be strong armed into not even giving him a heads up, because they were just like, no, like that will hurt our game, like other people. Because I was like, I'm competitive, so like I'm like, hey, if he wins and he comes back, then we compete, and it is what it is. But I had other people I was working with.
Did you come into the game thinking like, I'm gonna ride with my castmates, like we're gonna take this to the finals? And at what point did that kind of switch?
So we came into the game. I came in the game, number one, I knew that I was going to play an individual game because I didn't have the opportunity to do that in Big Brother.
Yep.
In Big Brother, like, it was all about the cookout, and I knew that, and that was something I was ready to live and die by. and did, and had to make multiple decisions that while in positions of power on multiple occasions, had to make decisions that weren't in my own best interest because I wanted to move us forward as a group, as a six. And so having another chance to play a game, I knew that I was like, all right, at the end of the day, I'm going to make decisions as an individual, but it's nice to know some people. So I figured that we'd work together, and then they introduced the algorithm on day one, and I was like, well, never mind. I think that talking to like gamers who were also well prepared for the show, everyone was of that mindset. Like, I was talking to Tyson, talking to Angela, like, immediately they saw that and they're like, oh, I can't run with my team as my top strategy because this algorithm messes that up as from a strategic point of view. So I immediately was like, okay, so I have to just like really, I can't rely on that. I have to figure out my own alliance. And very quickly after the second challenge, before day one, I started getting close to Tyson, but I also knew that like, he's just a very personable guy. And I'm like, dang, does everybody feel this cool about Tyson? Like, they probably do. And then a week later, I was like, if he's fooling me, I'm his puppet, because I just feel like I trust him, and I think he trusts me, and maybe he's playing me, and it is what it is. And then so it was really nice later on to find out that like in his interviews and stuff that like that was a legitimate, like I was his number one guy. Angela obviously his number one girl, and but at the time I was, you never know, but it just felt like I was like, I think I trust him, and I trust my instinct, and it turned out to be right. And so built up an alliance starting really after that second challenge with Tyson and Angela. And I'm really after the first one because they helped me get who I wanted for the elimination. And then for the and then after, and then we were winning. I think the three of us won every challenge for like 5 weeks in a row, and that built up a bond closer. Also, obviously, built up the target, and so yeah, that's where my loyalty was, like, to that alliance. There was like originally it was like 4 of us with Justine, and I think that was the right decision because 3 of those 4 made it to the final. It just was unfortunate I was the casualty who didn't. But as far as like picking a team, that seemed to be the one. I think I made a good decision on that.
Do you think you would have finished the final?
Yeah, I would have finished the final.
You gotta say yes.
Yeah. Everyone, I mean, no, it's not like everyone. I mean, I think everyone there knows I would have finished the final. It's funny because I had handwritten like Sudoku puzzles in my journal that I would do, and one time, and so it just is like when I saw that was a thing, I was like, oh my gosh, like Sudoku at the end too, on top of other stuff. I was like, yeah, that was rough to watch. I was like, oh,
yeah, it's unfortunate you didn't get that to the end because I thought you definitely would have won that. So if you were to do another season of the challenge, what would you do differently? What would you do to get yourself to the final?
Well, I'd make sure that I brush up on my Madonna trivia. No. I mean, honestly, I think that's the tricky part because it is a game where, like if not for one random question about Madonna, like I would have stayed and probably won. So it's kind of a hard thing. Like, do I want to change too much? But I will say, I think there's definitely more value in not. This is where I go back and forth because I think it's kind of a cool aspect of the game is that you have such open sides. So like, I don't know, I don't remember how much they show it, but like every single elimination, I was like cheering for who I wanted to win because I was like, usually I cared about somebody that was in it. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people are like keeping it close to their chest, and I get that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But because that obviously works for a lot of people and it's a strategy, but I just was like, so maybe I would be a little bit more subtle in that regard, as far as like not having my lines be as public. Because obviously that can matter, and it's a part of the strategic side of the game. So
Yeah.
probably something like that.
I gotta have that stonewall face that you're just like
Yeah.
not gonna do, but that's what happens sometimes. So what would you say in your life, your career, or anything with reality TV is your you know I'm right moment? So what I mean by that is a time or place where you wanted to do something or pursue something. You asked somebody for advice. They said, you know what, Kyland, that sounds terrible. Don't do that. And you were like, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. And ultimately you will see why it is that I'm right.
Ooh. Um. Wait. So this is something where the end has already happened, or it hasn't happened yet?
Could be either or, whatever you want to interpret it.
Okay. I guess I think that for me, uh, it is the idealistic view around pushing myself, like to take on challenges in the highest level. Like I think about Big Brother. You know, I obviously had a commitment to like going to going to the end of the game with the best in a challenge. People are like, "Why are you working with Tyson? Like, you don't want to be a final with Tyson." And I was like, I don't know. I mean, it is. There's nothing wrong with like pushing myself, and I don't know. You know, who knows what the reality TV world has in store for as a part of my future. But I think that mindset of being willing to push myself to the path of most resistance and to the challenge. I feel like there's been micro areas in my life where I think I've benefited from that, and I think in the long game, um, I'll continue to benefit from having that sort of mindset and pushing myself to do the harder things. So that's something where I feel like I know I'm right. So or at least I believe I'm right, and I'm willing to bet my life on it. Clearly, that's the direction I'm continuing to go.
Kylan, we thank you for your time here so far. It's a great answer. All of our you know I'm right answers are always great. But got one last question for you. Probably something
All
you're not
right.
expecting, and Nick loves when I ask
Oh
this.
gosh.
This is
Okay.
this is something that we only recently started the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 episodes or so. So you're one of the first ones to ask. And then when we did our episode with Alyssa, I asked her. So you got to answer this.
Oh gosh.
I'm an astrology buff, right? What is your
Okay.
zodiac sign?
Cancer.
You're a Cancer too, huh? Interesting.
Yes. Oh yeah. Me and Alyssa. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. I'm a Cancer. When's your
No
birthday?
way. July 15th. What about you?
Oh, you're only a couple days apart. I'm July 4th.
Yep. Yeah, we
Yeah.
had back-to-back birthdays in the house. Yeah.
Yeah,
4th of July.
she went
Nice.
crazy over that because what, her sister, I think she
Movie.
said, yeah, her birthday. It's crazy. We're all Cancers. We're all moody. That's right. You know, I don't even have to explain it. Yeah,
Sensitive, you know.
sensitive. Nick's like, damn, I'm a Gemini. Geminis are bipolar though, so
I mean,
Yes, it is.
not you, not you. Anyway, but you're a fellow Cancer, uh, fellow now. You know, I'm right alum. Uh, Again, we're becoming a Big Brother podcast, so the fact that we've been able to get all you guys to come on with us one by one has been spectacular. We thank you for your time, Colin. We really, really appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck moving forward in anything you do. What we do here is we give our guests the last words. So if there's anything else that you would like to share, if there's anything else you would like to promote, by all means, go ahead. We again appreciate your time with us. Thank you.
Well, first off, just want to thank you guys for the time and like coming through with some research, some deep cuts. It's very exciting. Always fun to chat about new things I haven't gotten to talk about. So just credit to you guys. I've have a podcast. We're doing a second season next. Got pushed to next year because of some other stuff I had to do this year. But I know it's a lot of work, and you guys are doing it. So props to you. And yeah, I mean, besides stay on the lookout for that. I guess just me on social in general. Like, I'm Kyland Young on everything except for TikTok, where it's Kyland.Young. For some reason, Kyland Young is locked, and it's not being used. And I just started on YouTube doing movie reviews. Movie reviews have always been a passion of mine. Just movies have always been a passion of mine. And just launched my first review on Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And I have some more recorded. They're going to be, starting to drop them every week. And that's just something that I'm just passionate about and love. I love talking about movies. I could talk about them forever. So I had a lot of people pushing me to do it. And I really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to doing more of it. So that one just dropped today or last night. And so you can see that on my YouTube, Kyland Young, also.
There you go. All right, Kyland, it's been a pleasure. I'm sure when Joe's out in California and the LA area, not for too long, is gonna contact you, and you guys can
Please
take
do.
it down.
I have a lot of friends in California. We have a lot of Nick and I have a lot of good friends out there, different businesses out there. So if I'm bothering you and if I hit you up in your DMs, don't worry, it's for good reason. But yeah, I mean, if I'm out there in the next couple months, which is looking more likely, I would love to come out and hang out with you and get to know you, in person.
Let me know, please.
There you go. All right, so Joe gives it 2 thumbs up. I give it 2 thumbs up. Ethan Roper gives this podcast interview 2 thumbs up. So that's going to do it here for this episode of You Know I'm Right, for our very special guest, Kyland Young, for my co-host, Joe Calabrese. I'm Nick Durst, and this has been You Know I'm Right.